Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Tech with Alan Spaja. In this video, you will learn how to enforce JSON format in API requests and responses when building Laravel application. Let's get started. Yeah, basically there are several ways to ensure standard JSON format in API requests and responses, which enforces consistent and structured data exchange. So ideally, when you're building APIs, you will have to receive requests in any format, and you would want to ensure that every request coming in is in a JSON format, and every response you are giving when a request is made is in a JSON format, because by default some of these things are not being taken care of. And then when you are dealing with front-end developers, you would be sure that everything that you are doing is consistent and there is a standard data structure for every form of data exchange. So let's start with how to enforce request in JSON format. You could make a request via a browser. You could make a request through an API tool. There are quite a couple of tools out there you can make a request. You can make a request from a mobile application, from an iOS device. It can come from any platform, but you want to be sure that there is a particular specification that is matched for a request to be accepted when building API. I have a video on my YouTube channel where I explain how to create middleware. So you want to check out that video to understand how to create middleware. So you can just go ahead to create middleware. Maybe use the PHP artisan, make middleware, then enforce JSON. So it will create this file. So if you come over here to create this file called enforce JSON request. So this is what I use to enforce the JSON request. I'm going to push this code to my repository, and I'll leave the link in the description section so that you can check it out. So this will intercept every request coming into the application, and basically we're saying that if it is an application JSON or multi-part form data. So this is for a file. So when building API, you're either receiving a JSON data or probably a file. So I just did this because I just wanted to explain in case you are catering for a request that is actually uploading a file. So this is how the middleware will look like. And then if you want to register the middleware, you come to app.php here. All right. So I could just come here. So I have all of these things written already so that I could just go over them. So I just uncomment this now. So it says enforce JSON request. So this is how in Laravel 11 and upwards, you register all of this middleware in the app.php file that is located under the Bootstrap folder. So we'll go ahead to the API to use this now. And then you could just come over here to API, and then let me just comment this, and then just bring this up that says enforce JSON request. So let's try to make a request. So this is an API tool. It could be any API tool you have over there in the internet. So when you make a request, you say it says invalid content type must be JSON or multi-form data. Let me just go back to the enforce JSON. So let me just put must be JSON. Let me just show you something. So let's just take this out, and then to make a request again. So it says must be JSON. You see that now? So, and then if this request coming into the Laravel application is not in JSON format, it's not going to allow the request to go in. So a way to make sure that this request is in JSON format is to come over to the headers. Okay, and then you say application type, you say content type, and then you say application JSON, and then you make a request. So you see now, request came in JSON format. So that works actually. So this is how to enforce requests to come in JSON format in a Laravel application. Next, we'll move to JSON response. So I'm just going to comment this out and then go over to app.php, just comment this out. And then the same way, like I mentioned before, you could just use an artisan command to create middleware. You just do PHP artisan, make middleware, enforce JSON response, which I've done already. So I'm just going to comment this out, and then I'll come here. So this is actually forcing every response to be in a JSON format. Okay, so whenever a response is being sent from the Laravel application, it will be in JSON format. So let's head over to API, and then just uncomment this. So you see I'm applying the middleware here, says enforce JSON response. So I'm going to go over here and then send the request. So you see it actually gives the response in JSON format. So even if the response is not going in JSON format, it will actually format it to JSON format. So you could actually use the both middleware on your API routes. Yeah, so you just comment this out and then you come over here. So we could actually enforce both JSON request and JSON response across board. So when I come over to app.php, I'm just going to comment this. Yeah, so just uncomment this. And then when you come back here, you just make a request. So it comes, it enforces the request to be in JSON format and then it gives a response in JSON format. However, you could use what they call append to group in Laravel. So instead of having these multiple names here, where you have enforce JSON request, enforce JSON response, you could just do append, this append group, where you want to use a single name, just say enforce JSON here. So I'm going to save that and then just come over here to API and then just comment this, then comment this. So instead of having enforce JSON request, enforce JSON, you could just have something enforce JSON. It does pretty much same thing. Come over here and you make a request, so it actually does the same thing. When building APIs, yeah, so Laravel have what they call exception handling, and then it's mostly return this exception handling in probably HTML format. Say for example, let me make a mistake here. Let me just come back to app.php and then just take this down. So let me just comment this out and then just do something that brings an error. So let's say we take this off. Yeah, good. So save, make a request. So you see it's returning the response in HTML format. So because this is an exception, but you want to be able to handle exception errors to go back in JSON format. And here is how to do. So you come to app.php. Yeah, so this is actually a 500 internal server error. So I'm going to come to this place now and then uncomment this. So I'll make a request again. So you see now, so you could actually take care of, when you return HTML responses to a mobile application or probably a platform where somebody is consuming APIs, it's going to break the application. Yeah. But you want to be able to capture those responses. So you can, under the with exceptions callback function in the app.php file, you can actually capture the exception handling and then return a proper response in JSON format. So this is a pass error that was handled here. There are other exception handling method, not allowed exception, not found HTTP exception, and then all of that could happen. Now you could actually make a general one, for example. So let me just comment this out and then save, and then just come over here and then just do a throwable. Yeah? So just send. So you see that now. So this is a general, whichever error that is going to happen or whichever exception handling is going to happen, it's going to return it in JSON format. So it says syntax error, unexpected token. Instead of returning something in HTML format, you can actually standardize the JSON response of errors or exception that occurs in the Laravel application. Another way to return exception handling messages or errors being thrown in JSON format when there is one is to use should render JSON when. Okay, so this is an API request. So when you come here, so it returns it in now the same HTML file that was returned before, it is now returned in JSON format. However, this is not quite reliable. It's just to enforce it generally, but then this is, I would recommend you use the throwable, which is much more realistic. So you could just do this and then you send over here, you see it returns syntax error, unexpected token, expecting whatever. So whichever error that happens, it's always going to be returning that message there. So let's fix this now. So let's try to access a route that does not exist. So let's come to API v1, blah, blah, blah. Let's say tutorial, for example, then make a request. So you see that now it says the route API v1 tutorial could not be found. This is a standardized way of ensuring that all exception handling messages are being returned in JSON format as opposed to returning them in HTML format that actually breaks the page. One more time, let me just go back here to comment this out and then try this again. You would see what happens. So you see that now it's returning HTML file 404 not found. But then it is better to ensure that all requests and responses are in JSON format when building APIs for application using Laravel. Alright, that being said, let me know what you think about enforcing JSON format in Laravel API development in the comment section. Don't forget to like and share the video. If this is your first time, kindly click the subscribe button. Until next time, bye.